Welcome to Lizzie's Workshop and this episode of Mixed Media Monday. Today I started off with a very angry page. I had added black to a project that I didn't necessarily need black on, and I figured, oh, I must be in a black mood, and then I realized that I really was angry about a few things. And I hate being angry. I really do. And the thing about that is that oftentimes when I do get angry, it's because I've allowed somebody to make me angry. So I did it with the brush. I threw black gesso all over it, golden black gesso, and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I got my hands in there, smoothed that around, and grabbed onto my Prima chalkboard paint, and the color is Plum. It was the closest thing I had to a red that wouldn't be shiny. I wanted it to be chalkboard. And so I wrote, I am angry. And it was really, felt really good to get my fingers in there and to just write that in big letters, big, bold, messy letters, that's what was happening. And so I went ahead and fixed it up and made it pretty, and not really. And then I sat there, and I left this on there just for a little bit of emphasis of how I sat there and I looked at it and stared at it and I read it over and over and over again. And then I took a deep breath and I said, okay, I am angry. I don't need to be angry. Let it out, and let's make this into an art journal page. So I grabbed onto an old credit card and I started scraping away the I am angry. And this was really cathartic as well, because it was very beneficial, and it felt really good to scrape away the angry and take it off and say, hey, no, I'm not going to let this dominate me. This is my life, kind of thing. And so I just scraped it away, but I did want to leave some of the pink in there, so I did allow some of the streaks to come through. And then I dried it with my heat gun, and that's why it's this matte pink and black. And then I grabbed my Liquitex flexible molding paste, and I believe this is a Diane Reevely stencil. And I just started putting some stuff along the bottom there. I just wanted to contrast. I wanted to bring in the light. I wanted to add white to what was very dark. And I don't think I had a plan. You know, when you're just full of emotions and you got to get them on the page, you don't really have a plan. You just kind of go for it and throw stuff down, and you throw down. And so that's what this piece is all about. It's about throwing down and saying, no, I'm not going to let you make me angry. I'm not going to hold that. I'm not going to carry that. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to put it away. Let the light in. And that's what I did, is I'm going through and I'm adding this paste, and it's nice and thick and chunky, and those squares on the stencil are going to give me just these, square little dots and randomness. And I got to thinking about this as I was editing it, going, it kind of looks like a cityscape, that kind of thing. These next two stencils are from Stencil Girl, and it's not from like their monthly club or anything, it's actually from their catalog. And so the bottom one is kind of a daisy kind of thing, and the top one is more of a sunflower. But I just layered them so I would have a border for my flower, and then I put the flexible molding paste on top of that as well. And then what do you do with a stencil that still has paste on it? Well, you keep using it. You don't waste the paste. And so I pulled that off there, grabbed the flower off of the square, added it on here, and I got rid of the rest of that modeling paste. Why waste it, right? And as long as I could do things in odd numbers, I was pretty content to just add those little bits of scraps in there as well. They add a little bit of texture to the page as well, so that works. This, I'm spraying here. I'm spraying in yellow. Who would spray in yellow when the page is pink and black? I don't know. But it was a Lindy stamp spray called Starburst, or from their Starburst collection, and it's called California Poppy Gold. I use this a lot. I'm going to run out, and then I'm going to be sad because I don't have any more. But I went back to thinking to myself, oh, well, that was kind of crazy. Why did I do that? And then I went back to my chalkboard paint, bringing the bottom layer of pink back up to the top layer by painting the flowers in the pink. And I just did this with my fingers. I didn't want the preciseness of a paintbrush on this, and so I just used my fingers to paint it. And then I tried to wipe it away a little bit with the wet wipe, but all it did was shred the wet wipe. So I wasn't very content with that. But I'm trying to fill in all the black in the flower with the chalkboard paint. I want the pink to come out. And then I thought that I would run my baby wipe over top and take it away so that the petals were white but the background was in pink. It didn't work because the edges of the paste were too rough, and all it did was shred the baby wipe when I went to wipe it off. And chalkboard paint is one of those things too where it just kind of sticks. Like a lot of the other stuff, it'll absorb into the baby wipe, where chalkboard paint just kind of sticks to the surface of your baby wipe and doesn't really go anywhere. So the moment that you touch anything with the baby wipe, all the pores of the baby wipe are clogged. You can't really do anything else with it. It just picks up the paint and says, "What are you doing with me now?" And that's part of the reason that I like to keep my baby wipes when I use chalkboard paint, is because I can let them dry and cut them up, and they're nice and solid and matte. So it works out pretty well. So here I went through and did it. I had to wait till it dried, and then I had to brush it off with a drafting brush in order to get rid of all the fuzzies from the baby wipes. So this, I had to speed this up to 5 times fast. So this was a very slow process, and what I'm doing is I'm just following the dots that are already on there, and I'm painting them with the eggshell blue chalkboard paint from Prima. And I really love this blue. I use it a lot. I've got one of the larger jars, and I use it all the time on a lot of my projects, so yeah, works out pretty well. It took a long time because I was just trying to do it nicely over top of things, but I hadn't let anything dry. So at some points I went through all the way to the white modeling paste, and at some points there were still puddles of the yellow on there, and I had to kind of keep adding blue until it was blue instead of yellow and stuff like that. So I did have to fight with it just a little bit. And all I'm doing is adding this eggshell blue in here to contrast with the yellow. And why would I combine these colors? You know, like this is what an emotional firestorm for me looks like. Just this random slapping down of things and no real thought to the whole process. But that's how she goes. But in hindsight, I must have put those colors together at some point, or seen them together at some point in something. And later on in this piece, you'll see what I had on my desk that maybe influenced my color just a little bit. But so now it looks just that little bit more like a cityscape, which I'm quite happy about. And then I thought, to balance the picture, I would grab some of that eggshell blue and move it up to the center of the flower. And then I decided I was going to use it for the words. So the title of this started off with "I am angry." And this, I know that I got rid of that, but having a process video kind of helps you to remember the whole process. And so the "I am angry," that was the first part of this. That's where it developed. And now I'm writing, "and that's okay." Because it's okay to be angry. As long as you do something constructive with that anger and nothing that's abusive, then, you know, it's not unhealthy to have anger. It's unhealthy to not deal with that anger. And so this was my dealing with that angry, and telling myself that it's okay to be angry. One of the things, maybe I said this already, but one of the things that makes me feel most frustrated when I'm angry is that I've given away my power and allowed somebody else to make me angry. There's nothing that drives me more crazy than that. If I'm angry all in my own right, then that's one thing. If I'm angry about something that's happened, then that's another thing. But in the event that somebody, you know, out there makes me angry and I have no way to control them, to get them to, you know, say they're sorry or whatever, then that's when I get really frustrated with myself, because I've allowed that person to make me angry when it wasn't their right to do so. So the next thing that I did here is I grabbed onto my white Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen. This is the White India ink. And so I decided I'm going to make a stem for this flower. And so then I got into the Zentangle mode and added stippling in the center of the flower. No real rhyme or reason. I just wanted to lighten up that blue. And then I thought, okay, we'll just keep going with this until we're done. Telling myself I'm done is like, it's insane. I don't know how to find out where done is, but I always feel done when I walk away from a project. So I guess that I do know when done is when I am told by myself that I'm done. So there are some pauses in here where I've decided to make changes and think about what I'm going to do next and stuff. But I wasn't able to edit it all out. My editing stuff wasn't working very well. But so I continue on with this. I didn't plan for it, but it ended up saying I'll use the energy to grow. And then I spelled energy wrong and grabbed a baby wipe and washed away the G and put it in properly. I'll use the energy to grow. And then I just continue on with that white Pitt pen. It's kind of a juicy tip, and I really, really liked it, but one of the problems that I was having is that it kept turning black. And so I had to keep wiping it off because, and then it turned yellow too when it was in the yellow zones, right? And that's just because of everything still being a little bit wet. And this page doesn't look very textured, but it is definitely quite a bit textured from all of that black gesso and chalkboard paint in the initial layer. It got quite messy and textured. And then when I added all the other stuff for texture, it just got thicker, right? And that's one thing I worry about with this tip is damaging it with uneven surfaces. And then my Zentangle, you know, I wanted to stay with this pen, and that's maybe one of the problems that I had with this page, was wanting to stay with this pen. Excuse me, because otherwise I would have Zentangled probably the whole page and never felt finished with it. But as I was adding all this white, I realized I was letting the light in, and that was using the energy to grow. And so I just kind of kept doodling and wondering, oh, I kept that phrase in my mind, kept going, let the light in, let the light in, let the light in. You know, and that's okay, but it was quite frustrating. So I thought, you know what, you want me to write let the light in on this stupid page, I'll write let the light in on the stupid page. So after I put these dots in here, which don't ask me why, it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Once I get that in, I write across the top let the light in, just randomly, just there's no thought put into this. This is okay, fine, I'll write the damn thing. So, let the light in, okay. It doesn't even, if you just looked at this piece right from the very end and just saw an image of the actual piece, people would probably think I was crazy. Like, let the light in and that's okay, I'll use the energy to grow. Who knows? Anyways, I drew these little lantern things in. I was kind of thinking about Tam and her exercise. About dealing with emotions. She's got it on her life book lessons and in her life book community, and so she talks a lot about how to use your to work through art in order to deal with your emotions. And that's why I put the little lanterns in there, is because of the silly let the light in kind of thing. And so I used this symbol. This symbol is kind of characteristic of Tam to say, okay, I'm letting the light in. Now leave me alone. I'm letting the light in. So these butterflies, what do they have on them? These butterflies are white and black and blue and yellow. And they're sitting right in plain sight on my desk. I have a feeling they influenced my color choices. So these are the still pictures. These are the finished project. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Mixed Media Monday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me some comments.